So welcome. We are in the book of Daniel, and as this shows, we are in lesson 18. Now, we haven't actually done 18 lessons. We skipped one, and we had a fish fry and so forth and other things. But we are going to be starting chapter 4 today, and we're going to learn lessons from the king. Now, chapter 4 of Daniel is very, very unusual. Can someone tell me why it's an unusual book? What makes it unusual? Daniel chapter 4. It was written by someone who doesn't believe. It was written by King Nebuchadnezzar. Now, some people pretend that he indeed was saved, but I'm going to show you in the scripture either this week or the next week that he was not, and historical record as well. But his words and his testimony, God can use anyone, saved or unsaved, to share his word if he chooses to do so. And in this chapter, we hear from Nebuchadnezzar. And it'll be interesting to see what he has to say after his experience with the dream and with what God does with him. But before we do that, I want to again put us in the context. So what I want to do is summarize our journey in the book of Daniel. We've been through 3 chapters. And I want to talk about where we've been and what we've studied. And then we're going to talk a little bit about where we're going and what we will study. So the way I want to do this is through a series of pictures, and I understand this is difficult to see, but this is a picture of 4 young Hebrew men standing at the king's table. And this is chapter 1 of Daniel. Remember that? What does chapter 1 teach us? What is the main teaching of Daniel chapter 1? Would anybody like to say that? Do you remember?
Resist the simulation.
Beautifully said. Resist being assimilated by the world around you. Exactly right. Or another way to say it is don't drink the king's wine and eat the king's food and expect to remain holy. Okay? So the other way I like to put chapter 1 is to use the words of Christ. Be holy because I am holy. And we're told that in our New Testament. So chapter 1 of Daniel is a lesson. Whoops.
Keep going. Sorry. The video is being weird.
Okay. It says, stand your ground and do not be assimilated. Then we moved to chapter 2 and we looked at this wonderful statue in all its glory, and we spent a lot of time looking at this statue. And this statue teaches us that God is sovereign. All these kingdoms of men began and ended. But the kingdom that comes at the end, the kingdom that comes at the end of this chapter is for eternity. And it doesn't end. And that's the difference between God's kingdom and men's kingdom. So chapter 2, I'm going to put on here the mountain that fills the earth, which will be the eternal kingdom at the end, after all of the Gentile kingdoms have been smashed and defeated. Then we went on to chapter 3. And chapter 3 was the men in the fire, the men in the furnace. And basically it teaches that God will sustain us. It does not teach us necessarily that God will rescue us out of the predicament, but he will sustain us through the predicament. It's a very important lesson, okay? God doesn't promise us a get-out-of-jail-free card. He doesn't promise Christians that they're going to have a happy, easy life for the rest of their lives. In fact, they're promised they're going to have persecution, and they're promised they're going to suffer, and they need the full armor of God or he wouldn't give it to us. So we're going to be under attack. So what chapter 3 teaches us, please don't think of it as a chapter that teaches us that God rescues. He does. But he sustains. That's his main function, is he gets us through it and enables us to survive it. And how does he do that? By being the 4th man in our fire, by being with us and going through it with us. Okay? So any questions about those first 3 chapters? That's where we've been.
You mentioned like chapter 3, and are you referring to spiritual battles or just life struggles?
Yes, I am.
Or both?
Yes, I am. Okay? Yes, I am. We okay? Chapter 4, which is what we're going to start today in a few minutes, is a dream that Nebuchadnezzar has of a great tree. And that dream can't be interpreted or won't be interpreted by his magi, so he has to send for Daniel. And Daniel comes in and tells him what the tree means, and then we see that prophecy fulfilled in the rest of the chapter. And what it turns out to be is chapter 4 is a prophecy of God will humble and restore. When we fail to acknowledge God, he will humble us. Now, there's two mechanisms that God uses to get our attention. One is a mechanism of chastisement. And chastisement is where he brings hardship our way to return us to the path. If that doesn't work, or that is ignored, then the second part he brings is punishment or wrath. Okay? So what we're going to see in chapter 4 is God first chastising Nebuchadnezzar, and when that doesn't work, he punishes him. And then at the end of the punishment, because God is more than a God of justice, he's also a God of mercy. So he adds to the chastisement and the punishment at the end, he adds mercy. And he restores Nebuchadnezzar. That's what we're going to study in this next chapter. Now, as we go forward, we'll go to chapter 5, which is the fall of Babylon. And we're going to see the writing on the wall, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin, where Nebuchadnezzar's grandson dies that night as the Persians and Medes invade the city. And that's what we're going to learn in chapter 5. Chapter 6 is Daniel in the lion's den. And all of us know that that is a lesson of how true is your faith and are you willing to face persecution for it. And it's the same lesson as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Daniel wasn't taken out of the lion's den. The lions' mouths were closed. The angel of the Lord came and closed their mouths and stayed with Daniel and protected him and sustained him. So we get a repeat of that message of being sustained. Now, those are the 6 chapters I've committed to teach to you under our original agreement. Okay, he's going to have to pay me more. if he wants me to do more chapters, and I assume he's going to.
Yeah, what do you like?
Okay. what do I like? So the next chapter is going to be a very difficult chapter, Daniel chapter 7, and it talks about 4 beasts. And the 4th beast is a beast most terrible. And this is in the far field, in the far future, about what's going to happen in the latter days. Then we'll move on to visions of conquest, and we're going to learn about 2 animals here, the ram and the goat, and we're going to see what countries they represent and what that battle represents. We will then go to the chapter that's one of my favorites. And it presents us a prayer, and I'm going to read the prayer to you because you can't read it here. But listen to this prayer. I love this prayer. O Lord, hear. O Lord, listen. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, take action. For your own sake, O my God, do not delay. Now I'm going to put it in my own words. Okay? O Lord, hear. O Lord, listen. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, take action. For your own sake, O my God, hurry up. That's essentially, do not delay. And we're going to study that prayer in Daniel 9. Daniel 10 will bring us to the holy visions of Jesus Christ, and we're going to study about him. Then chapter 11 is Daniel, and he's going to talk about his part of Revelation. So this will be the Old Testament revelation as opposed to the New Testament revelation. And then the closing chapter is about the purified and the wicked and what's going to happen with those 2 groups. So that shows you where we've been, where we are, and where we're going in the future. Okay? Does anyone have any questions? So what chapter are you on now in your study?
It is 5.
5. Okay, so you're at the fall of Babylon.
Yep.
You're at the party with the golden vessels.
Yes.
Okay. Because Barry is teaching a group, Daniel, also, but at a little different level than we are.
A lot different.
A lot different?
What mine is speedy.
Okay. And this is where we are today. So does anybody have any questions about what the plan is? Okay. Now I want to review the core messages from each of the 3 chapters we've had already. Daniel chapter 3. This is what we just finished studying. And it says, if someone asked you, what is the point of Daniel 3? We just studied it the last 3 weeks. We've been over it in great detail. How would you answer that question? What is the point of Daniel chapter 3? Okay. What is the point that chapter makes? One of you tell me.
I think like you said at the beginning, God sustains us through our hardships.
Okay. He doesn't guarantee us an easy road. He does guarantee us that he'll never desert or abandon us along that road. Okay, good. Good. God will sustain his people, and he will stand with you while in the fire. But we learned another thing, didn't we? But if not, if he decides not to sustain you through the fire, he'll be with you after the fire. And that may be more important than the first part. Okay? God wins always. So the lessons we've just concluded tells us God will sustain us through the fire, but if not, he's certainly capable of it. He can, but if he chooses not to, he's waiting for us on the other side, and he'll be there with us, and we'll be with him for eternity. All right.
And God's power too, that reveals God is significant.
God is omnipotent. Okay,
Very
good. All right, what about Daniel chapter 2? If someone says, what is the critical teaching of Daniel chapter 2? How would you respond? What's the point?
Be careful what you worship.
Be careful what you worship. Good. All right. Anyone else?
Doesn't have to be a tall statue, could be LSU football or something like that.
Or a device?
Yeah.
Or,
Nowadays,
yep. Anything else about chapter 2? The way I word it is, God is sovereign. All those great nations, Babylon, Persia, the Medes, the Roman Empire, the League of Arab Nations today with their oil wealth that seems so powerful and strong. God is sovereign over all of them. If there's one important lesson from chapter 2, it's the sovereignty of God. That in the end, he will conquer all of them with the stone uncut by human hands.
His will will be done.
Yes. All right? Jesus Christ will establish an eternal kingdom, and it's going to erase all the earthly kingdoms of the past. All right. What about Daniel 1? What did Daniel 1 teach us?
Stand firm, don't compromise.
Beautiful. Do not compromise. Stand your ground. Exactly. All right? Do not allow yourself to be assimilated by the world, because the world wants to eat you up. And Satan wants to sift you like wheat. Now, what are we going to learn in Daniel 4? Humility and restoration. Those are the 2 main lessons we'll see as we study this next chapter. All right, does anyone have any questions about our first 3 chapters and what we're going to do beginning today? Any questions? Okay. We're going to begin by taking a look at the entire chapter. It's long, it's a big chapter. It's 37 verses. We're going to look at the whole piece so we have it in context and go through it and break it into pieces that we can study and digest. So, I believe, let's see. Worksheet P63 will take you to the next slide. And it will give you on the next 3 worksheets the total text of the chapter in the King James Version. So if you want to pull those out, that's what we'll be using. And I'm going to call this Lessons from the King, and the king is Nebuchadnezzar. Now we see on the left Nebuchadnezzar dreaming this dream of a tree, and on the right we see Nebuchadnezzar after he's been humbled and he's on the ground. And we'll explain that as we go forward. So first let's look at the entire chapter. And I'm going to begin by reading to you the introduction, which is verses 1 through 3. Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the high God hath wrought toward me. Now the wording here is really important, and I'm going to read it again, and I want you to catch one 3-letter word here. I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the high God hath wrought toward me. He does not say my high God. Does everybody see that? Okay. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. Now, I went back to the original text, and I wanted to check the capitalizations that Nebuchadnezzar used in chapter 4, verse 3. And they're all lowercase h when he says his. If that were written in New Testament script, those would all be capital. Because our God is the capital God. But our God is not Nebuchadnezzar's capital God. So this is the first section. Nebuchadnezzar is the author. He's the writer. What is this thing that he's going to give us here? What is he going to tell us? It's his testimony. It's his witness of something he experienced, and he's now going to share it with us. And he's going to talk about the high God, and he's going to talk about his signs and his wonders, and that his dominion goes from generation to generation. So Nebuchadnezzar is admitting that God's kingdom will exceed his own. Will go from generation to generation. So I'm going to title this one, Nebuchadnezzar's Decree about the High God. He writes this as a decree. I, Nebuchadnezzar, am going to tell you what this God has done and what I've seen, and I'm going to offer you my personal testimony, and that's what he's going to do here. Verse 4. Nebuchadnezzar was at rest in mine house and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore made I a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. Then came in the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, and I told them the dream before them. But they did not make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But at the last, Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God, and in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. And before him I told the dream, saying, O Belteshazzar, master of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in thee, and no secret troubleth thee. Tell me the visions of my dream that I've seen, and the interpretation thereof. So this is the second piece. And the key thoughts in this piece is Nebuchadnezzar was taking it easy. And he was at rest in his house. He wasn't out fighting a war. He wasn't out inspecting the treasury. He was taking it easy in his house, enjoying his harem and his luxury. He was flourishing in his palace. Then he had a dream and it scared him. So he called the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers, and he told them the dream, but they would not make known to him the interpretation. It says they did not. It doesn't say they didn't know the interpretation. It says they didn't share it with him. And we'll talk about that when we get to this section. But at the last Daniel came in before me, whose name is Belteshazzar. He's the master of the magicians, the chief magi. And I said, tell me the visions of my dream and the interpretation thereof. Now you'll notice he asks Daniel something different than he asks the others. You see what's different? He didn't ask the others what the dream was, but he does ask Daniel what the dream was. Do you see that? Look at it. He realized Daniel was more powerful than the others, and Daniel didn't need to be told the dream by him. So he wanted Daniel, tell me the dream, and then tell me the interpretation. So the command he gives to Daniel is much more difficult than the command he gives to the others. This is showing us he doesn't have as much confidence in them that he has in Daniel. Does everybody see that? It's subtle, but it's there. So Daniel is asked to explain the vision the others cannot or will not. The next piece. Thus were the visions of mine head in my bed, I saw, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof, and all flesh was fed of it. I saw the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, the watcher and a holy one came down from heaven. Two guys came down from heaven. And he cried aloud and said thus, hew down the tree and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of the heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. But now, O Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof, for as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but thou art able, for the spirit of the holy gods is in thee. What do we learn from the last sentence there about what Nebuchadnezzar believes?
He can do it.
He has confidence in Daniel, doesn't he? He has confidence in Daniel. Okay, what else do we learn that Nebuchadnezzar believes? There's more than one God. He's still polytheistic. Okay? And he believes Daniel has contact through the Spirit with all of them. So I'm going to title this piece. We've already read these, so let me just go through this quickly here to underline the key pieces. The great tree dream of Nebuchadnezzar. It's in the middle of the earth. It was providing meat or food for everybody, and all flesh fed on it. Boy, my eyes are old. A watcher and a holy one came down from heaven. They ordered that the tree be taken down, but the roots preserved and the stump preserved. And Nebuchadnezzar would spend 7 times with the beasts of the grass of the earth. And now Nebuchadnezzar wants to know, what does all this mean? The next part. Would somebody be willing to read this for me, please? If you can read it from here, that would be best. Can you do that? Are you comfortable?
I have to look here.
Well, you can read it from there. That's
Yeah.
fine. Okay.
Then Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, was stoned for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spake and said, Belshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belshazzar answered and said, My lord, the dream be to thee that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof to thy enemies. The tree that thou sawest, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of the heaven had their habitation.
All right, stop for a second now. So now he has reiterated to the king essentially what the king has said. Now he's going to begin his interpretation in verse 22. Go ahead.
It is thou, O king, that art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown and reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth. And whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven and saying,
Here.
Who the tree down, destroy it. Yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, and the tender grass of the fields, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts of the field, till 7 times pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, a kingdom shall be sure unto thee. After that thou shalt have known that the heavens do rule. Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness, and thine iniquities by shewing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility.
Great, thank you. So why did the other wise men not want to give the king the interpretation?
Want to give him bad news?
Absolutely.
There's nothing good in it.
This is the king that throws people in furnaces, cuts off heads, and makes homes into dunghills. And they don't want to give him bad news because they don't want to tick him off. So he punishes them. So they're claiming plausible deniability. Okay? Daniel is bringing it out and saying, it's you. This is what's going to happen to you. But what does he do in the last verse, in verse 27? Read it again, please.
Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness, and thine iniquities by shewing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility.
What is Daniel giving the king? A way out. This punishment is coming your way, but if you'll accept my counsel and listen to my advice and stop sinning and become righteous and stop your iniquities and show mercy to the poor, maybe God will continue your peace. Okay, so he's giving him hope. He's giving him a chance. We have a God of second chances. You know, if you ever find yourself in a position where you're witnessing to someone who's done some really terrible things, and they feel they can't come to God because God would never forgive them for what they've done, you've got to remember that that isn't our God. Our God gives second chances. He gave second chances to Jonah. He gives second chances to Nebuchadnezzar. He gives second chances. He doesn't keep doing it. There's a limit to what he'll do. But he chastises, and that's a second chance too. If the chastisement works, you return to the right path, and the punishment is gone. It doesn't come. So this is a very important passage that will teach us about the fact that God doesn't want to punish us. He wants to bring us back. He wants to restore us. So I'm going to title this one, and I've underlined here Daniel, who is Belteshazzar. He said, the tree that you saw is you, king. And the decree of the Most High, which has come upon my lord the king, is that your dwelling is going to be in the beasts of the field. You're not going to be king anymore. And that's going to last for 7 times. Until you know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdoms of men, that God is sovereign. Thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee. Nobody's going to take your kingdom away. It'll be sure. It'll be there. Okay? But maybe if you'll listen to me and you stop sinning and act righteous and stop your iniquities against the poor and show them mercy, maybe God will extend your peace. Okay? So I'm going to title that Daniel's explanation of the dream. The next piece. All this came upon the king Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. The king spake and said, is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? While the word was still in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven, saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee, and they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and shall make thee to eat grass as oxen. And 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth to whomever he will. The same hour the thing was fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen. And his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hairs grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like bird's claws. So the important things in here is all of what Daniel said the dream held came upon the king. And the king was walking in his palace, and what did he do? What mistake did he make? His pride. How did he manifest his pride? He took credit for something that wasn't his to take credit for. Okay? Look what I did. Look what I made. He boasted. Okay? Instead of saying, look what God has given me. Look what God has done. By my might and by my power. Then a voice from heaven said, O king, that's it. End of game. Your kingdom is gone from you. They're going to drive you from men. Until now, know that the Most High ruleth, not you. And the same hour it was fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar. That same hour. And he was driven from men, ate grass, and so forth. So I'm going to title this, Nebuchadnezzar is stricken. Okay? Nebuchadnezzar is stricken. And we have one more piece. And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, now he's speaking again, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned unto me. And I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. And he doeth according to his will in the army of heaven, and among the inhabitants of the earth, and none can stay his hand, or say unto him, What doest thou? At the same time my reason returned unto me. And for the glory of my kingdom, mine honor and brightness returned unto me. And my counselors and my lords sought unto me. And I was established in my kingdom. An excellent majesty was added unto me. Now this is interesting. Excellent majesty was added unto me. He was given a bonus. Do you see that? That's called grace. Unmerited favor. Undeserved blessing. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to abase. So that's the testimony of Nebuchadnezzar. And I'm going to title that piece, Restoration of Nebuchadnezzar. So we have 6 sections here, and you can write those down on page 66, where it says summary of the main divisions of Daniel 4. There are 6 of them. The first one is Nebuchadnezzar's decree about the high God. The second one is Daniel is asked to explain the vision that others cannot or will not. The great tree dream of Nebuchadnezzar is number 3. And there's that dream. Number 4 is Daniel's explanation of the dream. Nebuchadnezzar is stricken. And there's this little picture here that shows him stricken. The restoration of Nebuchadnezzar is number 6. So those are the main divisions of chapter 4 that we'll be studying over the next few weeks. Okay? Does anyone have any questions about how we have divided this chapter? Barry, any questions?
No, I can't read that little print though.
Okay. Well, that's why I've read it to
I
you.
have to bring glasses.
Okay. Or you can move up here if you wish.
Yeah, that's all right.
You want to move up now? You can.
No, thank you.
I'll try to make the print bigger. It just adds more slides. But that's okay. So now let's go to Daniel 4, verses 1 through 17. And let's do a detailed analysis
John,
employing the
before you
Hebrew
go-
words. Yes.
Before you go, at the end of this, I know you had indicated earlier that some people believe that Daniel believed in the high God.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar,
Okay.
by what this says.
Yes. Now,
But then
some people teach that this is evidence that Nebuchadnezzar was saved.
We'll see.
And if you really press those people and those commentators, the real reason why they believe Nebuchadnezzar was saved because God allowed him to write a chapter of the Bible.
Oh,
And they use this to justify why they believe he was saved. But I'm going to show you Nebuchadnezzar's last will and testament at the end of this lesson and what he says in it.
okay.
And that's a record from history that is preserved in stone. He is not a believer. And I'll read you from his will and testament and prove it to you. It's a historical document in the British Museum. Okay? Anyone else?
In 23, it says he saw a watcher. Does that have any significance?
A watcher and a holy one.
Right.
Right.
Who's the watcher? Or what is it?
We're going to study that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Remember, I'm introducing it to you now.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll do the detailed analysis, okay? But it's a tough, what it tells us, Pete, is we're being watched, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
Okay? The watcher, I'll tell you right now, is an angel. Okay? And they're watching over the affairs going to and fro. We learned that in Zechariah.
Yep.
The people here don't know that because they haven't studied Zechariah with us, but you should have known that
Yeah.
because we read in Zechariah where those horses went out to and fro across the earth,
Yeah.
seeing what was going on. Those are the watchers, those angels on those horses in Zechariah.
Okay, yeah.
You got it now?
Yeah.
You got to bring those two. It's neat that we're studying these books at the same time, but you got to bring them together.
Yeah. You're right.
Okay?
Who was running the country while he was out of his mind?
Well, who do you think? The same one who wasn't there when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was in the furnace is Daniel.
He's only logical.
Daniel's at the gate. And you'll notice he calls before him a certain amount of his magi, not all of them. He calls 4 groups out of 8. The other 4 are loyal to Daniel and helping Daniel run things, while Nebuchadnezzar is out of commission eating grass and smoking weed. To modernize it a little bit, okay? Some people take sabbaticals from God by bad behavior. And they go and explore the pleasures of the world for a while. And God gives them a chance to return, just like he gives Nebuchadnezzar a chance to return. I think this is a model for those who stray from God. God doesn't abandon them. They abandon God, and God waits and knocks and is always ready to take them back. It's a beautiful story. Okay. So here we have Nebuchadnezzar the king, and he is the author. So question 89, who is the author of this chapter? It is Nebuchadnezzar, and he is the king of Babylon, and he's given his personal testimony. Who is the audience? Who's the audience?
All people, nations, and languages.
When?
Huh?
When? It doesn't say.
Yeah.
So it means us too.
Yeah.
Throughout all time. All the people, all the nations, all the languages, those living there at the time and who will live in the future. Nebuchadnezzar is writing to us to share with us his testimony. Now, people now remember, Nebuchadnezzar didn't write this in Hebrew. He wrote it in Aramaic. So if you try to use the Hebrew words here, they don't work. You have to use the Aramaic words, and there are differences. Many scholars and commentaries use the Hebrew words here, and they get a wrong interpretation. Okay? Because they miss what the Aramaic says. They think that Nebuchadnezzar was disabled for 7 years. It doesn't say that when you read it in the Aramaic. It says that if you use the Hebrew words, but this wasn't written in Hebrew. So we'll get to that in a little while.
I was about to ask that.
Okay? So people are dwellers of the same city or the same land. Nations is a collection of like-fathered people, like a tribe. And languages are different tongues. It literally means in the Aramaic, dogs of the same bark. I love that expression. Because if you know different breeds of dogs and you hear them bark, they're different. They're distinct. You hear my collie bark. Freeway, he's got a nose about that long. And his bark, it sounds like he's 6, 7 feet tall behind that door because that amplifies through that long nose of his. Okay? So this is the audience. The dwellers who are of the same city and land, the like-fathered people and tribes, those who are here and those who have been taken there and dispersed, and different tongues, people who speak different languages. Now, they dwell at the earth level. Look what it says. Unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth. Now, people just blow over that. Don't. Because the word here for the earth is a specific place within the creation of God in the mind of the Aramaic. And here it is. I've taught you this before. You can't read it. I'm sorry, so I'll read it to you. This is the lowermost. This is the underworld in red. Green is man's layer. Blue is the cloud layer. Black is the starry heavens. And yellow is the highest of heavens. Okay? So when this talks about earth, it's talking about the layer in green. Everybody who's at the green layer is the audience. The speaker is coming from the highest layer, God, in yellow. And he's passing the message through the starry hosts and the clouds to man's world. So the angels are included in that part. Okay? I call earth L3 and heaven L6, where the highest God is. I just use that for convenience. And it denotes the 6 layers of creation according to the Arameans. L6 is the highest abode where God dwells. L5 is the stars and constellations. L4 is the clouds and the birds. L3 is man's layer where man rests his head. L2 is the underworld, caves and fissures. And L4 is the lowest most of eternal fire. Gehenna is the word used to describe it. Okay, so the author's declaration. Daniel 4 is the personal testimony of King Nebuchadnezzar. He's witnessing to the entire world, and through his proclamation, his personal story of what happened to him when the high God intervened in his life. Now, what is his declaration? First, his declaration is peace. What does peace mean in the Aramaic concept? Peace is the word shalom. It's the same in Hebrew, and it means stillness, quietness, no hostility. He says, may quietness be multiplied. Multiplied means to continue to grow. 1 times 1 equals 2. 2 times 2 equals 4, so forth and so on. So this is saying, may peace continue to grow. The high, or the supreme L6 God, and the word here is Eloi, shows great signs or signals and mighty wonders or astounding miracles. His kingdom, his reign and dominion, his mastery are forever, are endless. That's the declaration of Nebuchadnezzar. Peace, stillness, no hostility. Be multiplied and continue to grow to you. The high, supreme God Eloi shows great signs and signals and mighty wonders and astounding miracles. His reign and kingdom and dominion and mastery, his complete power, is everlasting and endless. If it were interpreted from the Aramaic, that's what it would say. Any questions? What does the king think about Eloi? Eloi. We look in verses 2, 3, and 8 to get the answer. He accepts him, one, as the highest of the gods. He's in L6. He's at the top. Can't get any higher. In Aramaic, highest means there's no room above it. Okay? It's the topmost room. That's where God exercises his authority. And that's where Jesus exercised his. And in the New Testament, we call it the upper room. It's interesting. He acknowledges that God is eternal, doesn't have any end. And his authority is everlasting, endless. But as you study the historical literature and the rest of this text, you will see that Nebuchadnezzar still claims Bel as his god. Now, Bel is the word the Hebrews use. The word the Arameans use is Marduk. Marduk and Bel are the same. Okay? Bel is derived from Baal, or B-A-A-L, or Baal. So Baal, Bel, and Marduk are the highest gods in the Aramaic Chaldean world. And Nebuchadnezzar thinks Daniel's ability comes from his connection with a multiple of gods. In other words, he's polytheistic, believing in more than one God. We are monotheistic, one God. Jehovah God and Jehovah God only, who represents himself in earth in three roles. In the Hebrew, they are Jehovah the Creator, Elohim the Spirit, and Adonai the one who paid the price, or the Son. In the Greek, those are God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Okay? Now, if you compare Daniel 4:3, which Nebuchadnezzar wrote, with Psalm 145:13, you see something interesting. This is what Nebuchadnezzar says. How great are his signs and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. Where did he get those words? Psalm 145, written by David, says, Thy kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and thy dominion endureth throughout the generations. What does that mean? Nebuchadnezzar read the Hebrew Scriptures. He knew them. Why would he do that? He was the chief priest of the Chaldeans. Remember that. We learned that before. And as the chief priest of the Chaldeans, he accessed all this other literature from other religions, and he was well familiar with the Hebrew text. Oh, he and Daniel must have had wonderful conversations together. To be a fly on the wall to hear those two talk. What a wonder that would have been. I think Nebuchadnezzar has read the Holy Scriptures as they were in Daniel's day. All right. Nebuchadnezzar 4 through 9. How was Nebuchadnezzar before the dream? I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine house and flourishing in my palace. How would you describe that state of mind? He's fat and happy. He's in the safety of his palace. He's at rest. He's not off at war. He's comfortable. And he's flourishing. All right? That's why I say fat and happy. He's not off making war. He's not conquering lands. He's not collecting booty. He's essentially retired from that. He's now enjoying the good things of life. Content and prosperous. But the
He's a
dream,
proud man.
I'm sorry?
He was proud. He's a
He was.
proud man.
He was. He thought himself responsible for his good condition and failed to recognize it was God who was responsible for it. So the effect the dream had on him, I saw a dream which made me afraid. What does afraid mean?
Fear.
Yeah.
All right. What does that mean?
Scared.
Lack
All right.
of-
I'm going to shock you guys. That word in the Aramean, it literally means loose bowels.
That can happen.
All right?
Bottles.
Yeah. He peed his pants. He was so afraid. That happens. Okay? And that was the extent he went to. He lost control of his physical body. He was so frightened.
Certainly lost his contentment.
Yep.
Well, he's already had one bad dream, though.
He soiled the underwear for sure.
Yes.
Visions of my head troubled me. He was terrified, sore afraid. Now, the Hebrew concept of afraid is when your knees knock together, when your knees rattle. So what did he do? And how did it turn out? So what did he do?
He ignored it.
No, he didn't ignore it. He called for help.
He went
Yeah,
to
we
look
called
for
for help.
interpretation
Yeah,
of it immediately.
Interpretation.
Yeah.
It was a year later before.
But the first thing he did is he called for help.
Yeah.
Right? And when he called for help, he called for certain people. The magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. Okay? And they came in, and what did they do for him? Absolutely nothing. So he was unsatisfied. It didn't turn out well. If they knew what the dream meant, and there's a good chance they did, they weren't going to tell him bad news. So they said, we don't know.
Lose his temper.
This guy's throwing people. Yeah, he's not a dude to get his temper on you. That's right. They did not make known unto me the interpretation. That wording implies to me that they knew it, but they didn't share it. They would not tell him what the dream meant. I believe the wise men lacked courage more than insight. I think they had insight. They were wise, but they were afraid to tell the king. They believed the dream was about Nebuchadnezzar, and they were afraid to tell him and upset him because he was so volatile. Now we see that here. But at the last Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God, and in whom is the spirit of his holy God. Which God does Nebuchadnezzar claim? Bel. See it? Belteshazzar, Bel, protector of Bel, was Daniel's name. And he is according to the name of my God. So Nebuchadnezzar is telling us his God is Bel. It says it right there, black and white. Okay? Now, after all others have had their try at the dream, who comes in at last? What an entrance he must have made. Can you imagine the tension in the room? We can't tell you what you dreamed. And you could imagine Nebuchadnezzar's just getting hot, ready to explode. And in walks Daniel, okay, the master. Here he comes. Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, the chief magician and seer, Now, Belshazzar literally means Bel, protect the king. That's what that word means. So nobody can tell the king what's going on, and now the king's protector comes in. His chief magi, his chief wise man. And that's where we'll stop for now.